Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at an article that was written by Bucky Brooks of NFL.com from May 9th. Now, he recently ranked the top NFL passing groups in the NFL. Of course, you guys can see at the header here, the Bengals lead the class. But we're going to go ahead and see where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rank on this list according to Mr. Brooks, and whether or not I agree or disagree with it. So number one, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, that was in the header. So they've got Jamar Chase, they've got T. Higgins, they've got Mike Gesicki. Interesting, right? Interesting group. Number two, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. A.J. Brown was mentioned. Devonta Smith was mentioned. Saquon Barkley was mentioned, but not necessarily as a receiving option. He was more talked about as the a running option. So that's interesting. Jahan Dodson was mentioned, and it's like, what? What are we talking about? And Dallas Goedert was mentioned as well. Okay, another solid group. Number three, you've got the Minnesota Vikings. And, of course, Justin Jefferson. He's still the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. Jordan Addison is there, and TJ Hawkinson is there as well. And then the Bucs come in at number four. And Bucky Brooks specifically mentioned Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, of course. You've got Emeka Egbuka, and you've got Jalen McMillan in there as well. Now, I don't know if Bucky Brooks is just specifically looking at this past 2024 season, because he does mention the Chris Godwin ankle injury and whatnot. Doesn't even mention Cade Otton, by the way, which Cade Otton was 14th, in the NFL for receiving yards for tight ends this past year. So that's interesting to me that Cade Otton was not mentioned. Also, if you're going to mention, Saquon Barkley, for example, that might have just been for clicks, to be honest. But, Rachaad White's a very good receiving back, and Bucky Irving does some work in there as well. But let's just focus on wide receivers and tight ends for the sake of this. The Bucs should be better than number four, in my opinion. And I think it is kind of glazing that they're not. But I want to dive into it in a minute. The Rams are at number five. Puka Nacua is there. Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, okay, and Tyler Higbee. Shout out them. The Lions are at number six. Honestly, I'd put the Lions higher. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, dogs, right? Dolphins coming in at number seven. Still a solid group. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith. Okay. Then finally, the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson. Honestly, yeah, solid group, right? I want to go back to the Bucs, because I know some people may say, James, what are you complaining about? They're fourth. It's pretty darn good, right? Do you mean to tell me that the combination, okay, because Bucky Brooks mentioned Jahan Dodson, okay, he did mention these four wide receivers, Evans, Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and McMillan. So it doesn't seem like that there was a cap as to how many people Bucky was including in this group. I mean, for the Vikings, he only mentioned three guys. For the Eagles, he only mentioned three guys, or four, I guess I should say. For the Bengals, he only mentioned three guys. So, let's just add Cade Otton for argument's sake. And let's even add the number three wide receivers and number four wide receivers for these other teams, okay? Because that matters to me. Because when I think of pass-catching groups, I'm looking at the entire picture, okay? So, do you mean to tell me that the combination of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, and Cade Otton, those five guys, okay? Mike Evans, first-round pick. Consistent 1,000-yard wide receiver. We all know this. Chris Godwin, when he is healthy and he is on, probably a top three, number two wide receiver in the league. Okay, he could be a number one on a lot of teams. He was about to get a freaking bag from the Patriots last year to be their number one. Okay, now I do think that Devonta Smith and T. Higgins would also get a very similar type of bag, but you know what I'm saying. They are comparable. Then you have first-round pick Emeka Egbuka, which a lot of people went back and forth on. Is this the best wide receiver in the entire draft? Okay. And Jalen McMillan, who had 400-plus receiving yards last year and 8 receiving touchdowns, which I know is better than any other team's wide receiver 3. And Cade Otton, who was 14th in receiving yards for a tight end last year. Do you mean to tell me that group, those five guys, are worse than the Minnesota Vikings five guys? Okay, Justin Jefferson to Mike Evans, I get it. You give the nod to Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison to Chris Godwin, if they're fully healthy, probably give me Chris Godwin. TJ Hawkinson to Otten, give me TJ Hawkinson. But then you dive deeper. So we're looking at the pass-catching group is the key word. It's not a duo. It's not a trio. It's a group. Do you mean to tell me that the Minnesota Vikings' third wide receiver is better than Emeka Egbuka? Do you mean to tell me that the Minnesota Vikings' fourth wide receiver is better than Jalen McMillan? Because, again, Bucky did mention those guys. That's where it's like, ooh, as a bigger group, does Justin Jefferson over Mike Evans really compensate that much to where you're going to just overlook the fact that Emeka Egbuka completely smokes a Vikings third wide receiver, or Jalen McMillan completely smokes a Vikings fourth wide receiver, or that Chris Godwin is a better option than Jordan Addison? I don't think that it is enough to compensate for that. So okay, we talked about that. And that Hawkinson is better than Otten? Probably no, in my opinion. The Eagles, same thing. A.J. Brown. I'd rather have A.J. Brown, probably rather have A.J. Brown than Mike Evans, right? Devonta Smith, that's a tough one. Honestly, like I said, the Godwin's probably like a top 3 number 2 wide receiver in the league. Devonta Smith's a dog, okay? I'm not even going to argue about that. Jahan Dodson, you're telling me that the group of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, okay, but does A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert over Evans, Godwin, and Otten, let's say, right, really, again, overcompensate for Jahan Dodson and the Eagles' fourth wide receiver being so much worse than Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan? Again, I think it's a legitimate argument, right? I think it's a legitimate argument. And then finally, number 1, you mentioned Ja'Marr Chase. It's the same argument. Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, which honestly, I think Mike Gesicki and Cade Otton are closer than people think. I would be very interested to see what Cade Otton would be on a Bengals offense. But again, Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, I'm probably taking them over Evans and Godwin. Didn't even mention the third and fourth wide receivers for the Bengals. Bucky did for the Bucs. So, like, it's got to be fair, right? It's you got to analyze the bigger picture. I think that where this fell into a bit of a issue is like we went from looking at, again, if this was like a trios thing, or if this was a top 4 receiving option, sure, but group is such a vague term, I think, where it's like, okay, well, if you're going to mention the third and fourth wide receivers for the Bucs and the third wide receiver for the Eagles, which Jahan Dodson, mention it for everybody and factor that in, right? Factor that in, because in my opinion, if you're looking at the group as a whole, you can make a very legitimate argument that the Bucs should be at the top of this list, because Jalen McMillan can be a wide receiver 2 on a lot of teams around this league right now. Emeka Egbuka can be a wide receiver 1 on a good handful of teams around the league right now. Minimum wide receiver 2, again, on many teams. More teams than Jalen McMillan, in my opinion. So that's what I think elevates them and makes them a legitimate argument against any of these teams. The Bengals, the Eagles, or the Vikings. The Vikings' third and fourth wide receivers, that's what they are. They're not going to go to some different team and not be a third or fourth wide receiver. They're not going to be a 2 or a 1. Same thing with the Eagles and Jahan Dodson, and same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, their third and fourth wide receivers are not going to go off to another team and be a 2 or a 1. The Bucs, you legitimately have that. And whenever this article is called Ranking Top NFL Pass Catching Groups, you have to consider that, which is what I think makes the Buccaneers, I've mentioned it since they drafted Emeka Egbuka, I think they're the best NFL pass catching group in the league right now. I really do believe that. So what do you guys think about this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about it down in the comments section below. Do you guys agree with my takes and my opinions? Do you disagree? What do you think about the teams that were above them? Again, I understand Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, better than Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I can see the argument for that. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, better than Evans, Godwin. I can see the argument for that. J.J., better than Mike Evans. I can see the argument for that. Jordan Addison, I don't know about that. TJ Hawkinson, better than Cade Otton. I understand that. Dallas Goedert, same thing, I understand that. Mike Gesicki, I honestly think it's pretty close. But we're talking about groups. And if you're going to mention Jahan Dodson, can't get over that one. You gotta factor that in for all the groups, right? And that certainly matters in terms of evaluation. So I think the Bucs are number one. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And as always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.